Welcome to Etude number 7, part 3. This is all part of the Villa-Lobos 12 and 12 challenge, and we're going to dive into the next 5 micro-studies. Welcome to micro-study number 11. There's no real main points here because this is a very simple micro-study. There's only 2 chords. The one thing I will say is in the second bar on the E sharp chord, it is possible both to finger it as flat fingering or a hinge bar. Still clear the B string with a hinge bar, which will allow you to get into the so keep that in mind. Let's take a look. Alrighty, welcome to micro study number 11. So we're kicking off with this wonderful minor 7 flat 5 chord. First finger on a D sharp, second finger on an A, third finger on a C sharp, fourth finger on an F sharp. The right hand obviously has to strum through 2 strings to get this, the 5th string and the 4th string. And then after that it is literally the same pattern as before. P, M, I, P, M, I, P, and then it changes. P into what is essentially a G7 chord, but with a 6 suspension. So the G7, you move its 3rd finger onto the G bass, PMI on open strings, D, B, G, D, B, and then here we have an E sharp or the F. You can use a hinge bar like I'm doing there, back to a P, or you could do that as well. But bearing in mind that the next chord is a full F sharp minor chord, it is probably advisable because you can take that E sharp up, otherwise you get this. It gets cut off as you move into the F sharp, but the choice is yours. And a little tip there is I released my 3rd finger ever so slightly early to get it up onto the G chord. Let's take a look. Slow motion. Welcome to micro-study number 12. This is quite a beautiful micro-study, and it has Villa-Lobos' great love for the cello buried in it. We have a cello line that moves up string 5. So again, main points here are the tenor melody or the cello melody is brought out by dropping the volume with the right hand, so you need fine right hand control to get that. Laser ahead of the shifts as always, and use your left hand 3rd finger to gliss up and down the strings. And finally, the timbre, the tone should be lush and full because you're trying to imitate a cello, which is what you're after. So let's dive into this wonderful section of the set. Okay, micro-study number 12, the cello line. Right, there are only 2 chords in essence here in the first bar. We have a full F sharp minor chord, and then we have a B sharp diminished. And then what happens is this wonderful line we get that wonderful cello line that needs to be pulled out of the texture that Villa-Lobos has created there. You're going to be doing that with right hand fine control, but first of all let's just take a look at the first bar. So we have the F sharp minor chord, remember, pull back on your barres, don't squeeze with your thumb. 3rd finger, 4th finger, full barre, and then we have P, M, I, P, A, M, I, and then we have P, P, A, M, I, M, P. It's quite a complicated pattern to begin with, but once you get used to it, it doesn't take a lot to get up and running. And then obviously you've got a laser ahead to fret number 9 for that F sharp. Villa-Lobos has expressly put gliss in, so push that note gently up the fretboard. You don't need to squeeze down, you just push, and a little bit of a wrist adjustment there, as you push it up, and yes, you're going to squeak, but it's not going to be too bad, and it's part of the technique. Obviously, as we get to the B sharp chord, release the full barre. You don't need the full barre because you need your open string to get that wonderful clash. Okay, bar 23, where we're up here. Your thumb is going to be playing the bass and the melody note. So if you can, try not to. So put the energy and emphasis into the F sharp note. And then we have a D straight after it, and again, so your energy is going to dissipate for the D, because you do not want to do this. The right hand fingering after that goes. So B, A, M, I, A, M, I, P, P, A, M, I, P, A, M, I, and then you're back down to the F sharp chord. Again, new right hand fingering is going to take a while, so if needs be, practice it open. To get it correct and in your system. Right, let's take a look at microstudy number 12 slowly. Welcome to microstudy number 13. This is the second section, part 6. Now this is only 2 chords, and it's the 2 chords we've just dealt with, so I'm not going to go over the chord shapes. Again, it's relatively easy. The main thing is here we have a repetitive right hand fingering. I have chosen a particular way of fingering it. You could obviously work out your own quite easily, and I encourage you to do so. So there is only one main point here, and that's just to keep an eye on the right hand fingerings and use sequential planting to nail them. Right, welcome to microstudy number 13. This is a relatively straightforward one. We're going to dive straight in. I would suggest practicing the right hand open strings first. So we look at that. It's a strum, all 6 strings, with your thumb playing 3 bass notes. And then it is AMI on the first 3 strings, and then you shift up a string, AMI, on the next 3 strings, and then you shift up again, AMI. And then it's M, and that's it for 2 bars. The chord shapes are F sharp minor, and then leaving the bar down so that it's a B sharp full diminished over an F sharp. Remembering, pull back with the arm, don't squeeze with the thumb. So let's take a look at that now in slow motion. Welcome to microstudy number 14. This is a wonderful diminished scale that runs up from low F sharp to high F sharp, and then into a nice big hinge bar chord. Main points are laser ahead, obviously. I have chosen to shift on string 1, but it is possible to shift on strings 2 and 3 as well. Thirdly, because of the left-hand hammer-ons, they're quite a challenging thing to do. I suggest practicing this scale in string sets of 2. Okay, welcome to microstudy number 14. We're going to kick it off straight away. We're in the full barre with a B sharp diminished chord, and we're playing the last few notes of that pattern. Fingers come off, F sharp stays on, hammer on, 1 3, 0 3, 1 4, 1 4. Now this is quite a big shift. 2 frets, 1 4, 1 fret shift, 1 4, laser ahead. That's the one to watch out for. You really got to hammer in there, and then you're into that chord shape. I would suggest practicing this in string sets. So to keep in mind is as soon as you've hit here, you need to be aware that you're going to have to lift your first finger up. So you need to be thinking lifting and up. As soon as you've hammered that in, it needs to come up for our hinge bar. Welcome to microstudy number 15. I've entitled this one Hinge Bar Hell because it is quite a tough technical hurdle in this etude. Not impossible, it just needs some practice. Main points here: right hand pattern stays the same throughout, so don't worry about that. Keep the left hand little finger relaxed, seriously, because it is quite a tough, don't squeeze in. Thirdly, notice that the shape stays the same and it just shifts up as one big unit. Finally, it is a hinge bar, so you're going to have to practice that. If needs be, move the shape down the fretboard into an easier position where there's less squeezing, because up here your action is quite high, you have to squeeze a little bit harder. If you find that challenging, moving it down here where there is less action, not as high, you'll find it easier, and then build up to a fret 10 hinge bar. Let's dive into this shape. Right, so this is a hinge bar, an upper hinge bar as well. So what does that mean? It means a normal hinge bar, you're hinging at the bottom. We're going to be hinging at the top with a flexion on the tip joint at fret 10. So covering strings 6 and 5 with your first finger flexed. You need to make sure those two strings are free. And then your second finger is going to go down on a D, and then your fourth finger is going to go down on an F sharp. This is quite a tough chord, so I would suggest you build up to it. Maybe start at fret 3 and then not the prettiest sound, but it'll get you going, because by this point the main technical hurdle for this is your action. Now on this guitar the action's quite high, so it's quite tough. You've got into this position from here. As soon as you're going to have to train your finger to move up straight after that D sharp note. You're up at 10th fret, you're in your hinge bar. Your right hand will strum through this top bass strings. 6, 5 and 4, and then I am going to take care of the treble strings, and then it's M, I, P, M, I, P, M, shift forward 1 fret, so you're going to have to lift and shift quite quickly as a unit, whole hand, and then again M, I, P, M, I, P, and then back into the beginning of the piece. That is the big technical hurdle. The main thing is to get used to shifting this pattern, this unit of fingers. And that is it. That is the hinge bar. So remember what I said, this is an upper hinge bar where you flex at the tip joint. Thank you very much for staying until the end. I hope you found something of value and worth here. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. If you're looking for some freebies, like a free PDF guide or something like that, head over to Classical Guitar Rocks, where this 12 and 12 challenge is being run from. Thank you very much for watching.